Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a watercolor metallic bulb card using the technique that I showed in my very first episode of I Saw This Craft on the Internet. I'm going to be using these Yuli watercolors that I purchased from Etsy. This is the Christmas series dot card, and as you can see, it comes with a dot of very highly pigmented metallic watercolors. I've had this card for a year, even though I don't use it, all the time, but there is quite a bit of paint on these dot cards. So if you want to experiment with these watercolors, the dot card is the way to go. So what I'm going to do is I have a bottle on the side there with a very small nozzle, and I'm just going to drop a couple of drops of water onto some colors. So for this card, I'm going to be using the colors gold, orange, red, royal, which is the blue color, orchid, which is the purple color, and forest, which is the green color. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops of water onto each dot of paint and give that just a little bit of time to kind of sit on the paint and activate the paint. You can see that I've used this card before, and some of the colors already have little wells in them from where I've dropped water before, and then some of them don't. But if you give it enough time to activate the paint, you'll be fine. I have a couple of different sizes of paint brushes over to the side that I've already had sitting in water. So I'm just going to bring in the smallest paintbrush that I have and just kind of activate that paint a little bit more by taking that brush and swirling it around in the water droplet that's on top of the paint. So I'm just going to go through all my colors and kind of work that water into the paint. Make sure we break that surface and really get that paint activated. So now that the paint is activated, I'm going to bring in the object that I'm going to be using for my bulbs. This is the cover that came on my Simon Says Stamp small blending brushes. So I'm going to use that cover because it has sort of an oval shape, and that's kind of the shape that I want to go for. I want these to kind of look like small oval ornaments that would be hanging on a tree. So I'm going to take my smallest, thinnest paintbrush, dip it into a color, and I'm going to take that color and stamp it basically onto this watercolor paper. I'm using the Canson XL watercolor paper for this card, and so it's a really strong, thick watercolor paper that can withstand a lot of water. So I have my first little bulb stamped onto my card, and I'm going to go around and stamp a couple of red and a couple of oranges. I'm going to stamp these in batches because this watercolor, because we only have just a little bit of it, it's going to dry rather quickly. So I'm going to stamp a color and then color it in, and then stamp another color and then color it in. So you'll see me kind of go back and forth through this process. I'm also going in rainbow color. So I'm going to start with red, and then I'm going to work my way down the rainbow. And in order to use this same cap again, this cover again, I just wiped it off with a microfiber towel and was able to move right into the next color. So I'm going to do two colors here and then fill those colors in with the paint. So now that the red and orange have been stamped, I'm going to switch paint brushes and come in with a slightly larger brush that has a few more bristles in it. So that's going to allow me to grab that paint that is on the outside, the paint that we stamped down, and bring that into the middle. So you can see here already how much the paint has already started to dry. So I'm just having to dip back into my water and reactivate that paint. And that's one good thing about using watercolor is you can always go back in and reactivate the paint. You may even have to go back to your palette and grab a little bit more of that paint and fill in the bulbs to your liking. However deep or however intense you want the color to be, you have the ability to go back in and do that. So now I'm going to move on to the remaining 4 colors that are on the palette that we're going to use today. So now I'm coming in with the gold, and I'm using the gold as my yellow. Now, and I'm going to fill that in. I've stamped down the green, and I'm filling those in now. The royal, which is the blue color. And finally, the orchid color, which is this beautiful purple color. One of the things that I like most about these Yuli watercolors is how they kind of color change. So you'll see that in just a moment. Now that the bulbs have been painted in and they have had a chance to dry, I'm bringing in my Copic multi-liner, and I'm just going to draw the hand-drawn circles around, or ovals in this matter, around each of the ornaments to give them some definition. If you want a little bit more detail about this process, be sure to check out the first episode of my series, I Saw This Craft on the Internet. I've used this technique in that episode, and I went a lot more in depth on this technique. So be sure to check that out. I'll link it in the description box below for you. I'm adding some ornament toppers to each of the ornaments, and now I'm going to draw the strings as if these ornaments were hanging down in front of a window. So I'm just adding some string to our ornaments, and I think when I added the strings, these really came to life. They really started to look like I intended for them to look. So I'm very happy with how this panel came together. So to lift this card off of, or this panel off of the card base, I'm just using some craft foam. I have used various different things, and I just switch it up every now and then. But because this is some thick watercolor paper and I wanted the entire back of the card to be supported, I decided to use pieces of craft foam to give some dimension to the back of this card. I'm using some permanent tape adhesive to attach the panel to this card base. And this card base is made from Canson Opaque 120-pound weight cardstock. And I'll have as many products as I can listed in the description box for you below. And by attaching this card to the card base, this card is actually complete. I didn't want to put a sentiment on this card because I didn't want to block any of the beautiful colors that this metallic watercolor paint can provide. And you can see there when you twist the card in the light, you get different colors and shades. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider giving it a thumbs up. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter, as well as on my website, thedeltacrafter.com. Be sure to check out all the wonderful crafty products that I have listed in my store here on YouTube and on my website. Until next time, everyone, enjoy and happy holidays!